Hello, hello. Bl'Artagnan here, bringing you Alexander's Divine Lufenia. Divine Alexander's Lufenia? Lufenia, Divine, whatever. Bringing a team here of Garland, Vivi, and Aerith. I don't yet have Golbez. I'm going to throw some tickets at him and see if I can get lucky there. Just because I like the character, less because I think I need him. But in the meantime, let's see if our beloved GL first, Vivi, can fill in the dark damage dealer role for this fight. It's a bit of a doozy, this one, with some pretty specific needs, although you could say that about most Lufenias. Although there is a fairly well-known cheese strategy you can use involving Gladio, which I haven't quite been able to pull off, and decided, you know what, screw it, I'll just try to do the fight normally. It ended up actually going a lot smoother normally than it did when I was trying to set up the cheese strategy, so there you go. So this team has a few specific needs, or not team, the fight has a few specific needs that this team is able to deal with. First and foremost, you need dark damage, and that's where Vivi comes in. We have a fairly small pool of dark damage dealers, but they're all reasonably usable. Zonde is quite good here. Golbez, of course, is fantastic. Vivi has specific issues that you need to be mindful of, but works quite well if you work around them. You'll notice there, I haven't used his LD yet. That's a very intentional choice because of a mechanic that we're about to run into. The attack after the recast, the big all attack, is going to be a brave-only attack, but if you're not at full hit points or he breaks someone, I'm not sure the exact requirements. Basically, you'll get, I think it's, if you're not at full health and he breaks anyone, the whole team gets confused and blinded, and it's just terrible. That right there is the counter mechanic used for the Gladio cheese. If you go to full battery as well, there's a lot going on in this fight. But yeah, I chose not to use the VVLD at the beginning of the fight because, for one thing, the orb doesn't show up until he's below 80. But the other reason is that I didn't want to have to deal with the health loss if Vivi ended up going after Aerith for some reason involving the recast. Now here, another mechanic is at 79, 49, and 29%. Alexander becomes resistant to non-weakness damage and starts every turn sapping your party for like max brave, basically. And you need to break him in order to stop that using non-instant break mechanics. It has to be shaved, which is a tall order given that he's fully refilling his brave every turn. So there are ways around that, but the two best I've found are, one, if you use a call to put him below, he doesn't sap your team and you can break him with whoever used the call, as you saw me use there. The other, which I'm going to be trying to use later in the fight, is if you put him below the threshold using Vivi's regular attack, Alexander will regain some brave, and then Vivi's follow-up attack will actually break him. So that's a pretty great strategy as well. I suspect set to 0 mechanics like a Mediterranean and Bart's would probably work. Well, later Bart's once he drops it in this month. But I haven't tested it and don't really plan to. Garland is great here because, I mean, general Garland stuff, but Alexander's resistant to defense down, meaning that Garland and Aerith's respective defense down auras, and Odin's as well, go an extra mile because the fight is kind of designed with him not having lower defenses in mind. You know, I haven't looked at his stats, but I'm assuming he has very high defense, and so proportionally reducing that through these debuffs, it gets you more bang for your buck. Case in point, we're hitting for, you know, cap damage on all these strikes, and it's below 80%. It's good times. The last piece of this puzzle is Aerith, and this is she's kind of the glue that's holding this team together, because between that recast and the you have to be at full HP after the recast mechanic, her on-demand healing from Healing Wind is just a lifesaver, along with her turn jumping and stuff like you just saw there. Letting her get back-to-back Healing Winds off is going to be pretty great. Well, almost back-to-back. I was able to get a turn jump there. So, this is an interesting fight for me in that, as I said, there's a lot going on mechanically, and it has some specific requirements in terms of team healing, in terms of dealing dark damage, in terms of being able to shave an absurd amount of brave. really trying to sell Golbez's absurd Brave Shaping capabilities. But if you can manage them, I didn't find the fight terribly unfair if you operate within those parameters. It's just a question of, like, do you have the pieces you need? So here, I am trying to use Jack Call to get him close to 50, so that I can use that trick I mentioned where we're going to use Doomsday to bring him below. It doesn't quite work. We'll see. Unfortunately, he's still at 50. So I end up using Chaos Wave instead. Just as well, since we use the call, he resets to 0 Brave on his without sapping us, and Garland is able to use a very high damage EX to, or low damage actually. I don't know. EX of some damage. I don't know. I thought it was higher battery, but that was a smaller number than I expected to see. And break him, so bringing us out of that problem. Speaking of the Terror Call I just used, and the Garland Burst we're using now, the last mechanic of Alexander's is that if you take 8 consecutive actions, he goes into a gold aura, which reduces all Brave damage to 1 and all HP damage to 0 until he acts. Which means if you're bringing Terra, you have to be very careful. And it's also why I decided not to bring Terra in this case. But because his mechanics are so predictable in a sense, you can be fairly aggressive. He generally isn't dangerous outside of the specific health thresholds and the specific recast thresholds. Which feels like a weird thing to say, because during those thresholds he can be quite problematic. The fact that he dispels and becomes immune to all debuffs during the charge-up phase here is annoying. I was planning on bringing X-Death until I realized that he spends half the fight debuff immune, and, well, basically kind of the end of that particular saga. But this is going fairly smooth. With 80 turns to play with in total, we're pretty darn safe here. We have the summon still. We have Ultimecia calls here to do some fantastic shaving. Yeah, really, this ended up being a surprisingly manageable fight with this team, given what I had heard about it. I'd expected a much more toxic experience, and I have a feeling when I go back in to try to beat it with other teams, I'm going to have to kind of eat those words and say, wow, this fight sucks if you don't have the best team for it. Which is why I'm trying to avoid saying, oh, it's an easy fight, because it is not an easy fight. It's a fight that has particular requirements that you can do stuff to work around. Or that doesn't, or how to put it, it rewards you very hard for bringing the pieces that you're expected to bring. I'm sure folks who have cleared this with Dark Knight Cecil probably had a very different experience than those who used Golbez or Vivi, for instance. So here, I've summoned here, and you'll notice that the turns got pretty weird, because when we summoned, you may recall that we had quite a bit of space before his next turn, and now he's going right after this. So that's, on the one hand, it's a little bit nerve-wracking. On the other hand, it kind of works in our favor, because it means that I don't have to spend as many turns punching him after he, like, normally I would have expected after he comes out of this for him to go all gold and immune to damage, but that actually accelerated his turn in a way that kind of works out for us. See, there we go. Now we didn't have to worry about wasting a bunch of turns punching him and dealing no damage. I'm realizing at this point that my good buddy Indolent Lard is graciously letting me use his very handsome Garland down there in the corner. And with 8% to go, I don't actually think I need to use it, which feels a little bit respectful, because Indolent Lard's a gentleman, and I really should be repaying him for the kindness there. So instead of using his Garland, I'm going to say go sub to his channel on YouTube, Indolent Lard on YouTube. He's got some of the best produced videos you're going to see, with fantastic music and transitions, animations, and stuff. In addition to just, you know, being a very solid player. His 7th saga, I'm very excited to see play out. The latest... oh yeah, and here we go. I finally brought Jack in because that debuff immunity had me kind of forgetting to use him. And we're just going to go ahead and close things out with some AAs. No friend unit used. Sorry, Mr. Lard. And there we go. Alexander Lufenia complete. On the second try, I missed the HP the first time, but I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, maybe subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Adios.